If you're talking to an attractive woman and you show zero signs of interest, like none whatsoever, to the point where it's just a friendly conversation, like the type of interaction that she would typically have with a coworker, well then obviously she's not gonna be feeling any emotions towards you. It's gonna be this boring interaction, she's gonna end up friend zoning you, and ultimately she'll have zero sexual interest in you. Now on the other side, you could also be the guy that overdoes it. You end up giving way too many compliments, you give your power away in the interaction, you end up pedestalizing the girl, or maybe you're just a little bit too forward for her personally, and so for whatever reason, she's just not into you. Now, there is a subtle, nuanced balance where you can show a certain level of interest without it being too much, and so I want to break down for you guys all the technicalities around how to compliment, how to display intent without overdoing it, without pedestalizing the girl, or without giving your power away. And I'm also going to be demonstrating this by showing you guys live clips in the field, and we'll be breaking this down at the beginning of the interaction, going into the middle of the conversation itself, as well as the tail end of how to actually get a phone number and set up a date properly. So a lot of good things going on in this video, and before we jump in, if you guys are interested in actually working with me directly, if you've been watching content but you're not getting the level of success you want in your dating life, click the link down below for an opportunity to work with me personally to achieve your dream dating life. There's also an in-depth video on that page where you can check out more details about my coaching program, the clients I've had, and how I can help you get real results right now. Let's get into today's video though. So when it comes to displaying interest, showing intent, giving out compliments, the way that you guys can look at this is there's a spectrum, right? There's on one side, it's completely indirect, which would be friendly, not sexual, not man to woman, friend to friend, or acquaintance to acquaintance type of conversation. On the complete opposite end of the spectrum, we have being what's known as too direct, too complimentary, too pedestalizing, giving all of your power away. And honestly, guys, I don't think that you should really try to be on either complete end of the spectrum. I do think that there's a nice balance in between depending on the type of interaction you're in and whatever skill level you're at. So I want to show you guys all the different levels. That way you know, depending on what environment you're in and where you're at in that interaction, how to run it properly. So the first thing I want to explain to you guys is this range, and then I'll also go in and show you what to do at the beginning, at the middle, and at the end of the interaction, the good and the bad and the ugly. So first, let's start off all the way on the one side of an indirect type conversation, right? And at the beginning of an interaction, this would look like something like asking for directions, asking the woman if she knows what time it is. Maybe in a certain situation, asking her if she knows what time this place opens, or what time is this place closing, or what time do they stop serving food. It is very indirect. It has nothing to do with the two of you guys. It's you talking about this third thing. And that can be used in certain situations. Like if you were in a coffee store and it looked like they were going to be closing soon. Okay, yes, that makes sense. Or if you're walking down the street and you wanted to ask for directions, that would make sense. But there are some times where that wouldn't make sense. Like if she's actually walking at a faster pace and you have to go up and stop her, or you see her in passing, you're not going to be able to do that. So now we start to move slightly more towards the direct side of things, just about a half step. And I think the next step would actually just be giving out a greeting in passing, right? This is still not by any means very direct or very intentful, but it's starting to just move ever so slightly forward. So if you guys are at very, very beginner levels, like me personally, there was no way I could even go up and actually display intent, at least not initially. I had to work my way up to that. So if you guys are at the lower level of things, like I have this roadmap that I coach my one-on-one clients through. I'll put it up on the screen right now. These are the 5 different levels that we coach you through inside of my program. And regardless of what level you're at coming in, typically where I start guys is right off at level 1, which is giving out greetings in passing. It's a very small step. It is a very low pressured step, but it is an easy step that you could start doing today in any environment with anyone you see. Now, if we were to move another baby step forward, we're still on the very indirect side of things, but to take it one step forward, instead of talking to the woman about this other thing, like asking if she knows what time the store closes or if she knows directions to this place, situationally, sometimes you could ask her for an opinion on something. So if you're at a place or she's in line with you and you guys are talking about a certain cafe or food spot or drink spot, if you guys are out, and it makes sense to get her opinion on something, this is still also very indirect, and it's not even really complimentary, but it is a way to start an interaction without putting pressure on yourself. So none of these are even in this middle bracket where we're talking about actually displaying intent or being very complimentary, but I wanted to include this because there are a lot of men that I've coached. I know there's a bunch of you guys watching this video where you don't even really go out and interact with women. You're not even approaching at all. You put a lot of pressure on yourself and you're not even capable of doing these steps. And so I just recommend to get the ball rolling, to start building some level of confidence and building some level of momentum and consistency. Just start doing this first little bracket as often as possible. Start giving out greetings, start asking for directions, ask what time it is, ask for a female opinion, ask for a male opinion if there's a guy standing in line with you. These are great ways to just start taking that first step towards building a little bit more social confidence. And if you want to go a little bit more forward with it, once you do get that initial conversation going, even though it is an indirect start to an interaction, you can always still give the compliment after that, okay? It doesn't need to be intent, and we'll get to that in just a minute, but you can just start by asking for directions. And when they give you the directions, on your way out, you could give the compliment. You could say, thank you so much, have a great day. I like your jacket, by the way. Very indirect way to just start getting comfortable giving out compliments to men and women. And same thing goes for after a greeting or after getting an opinion on something, depending on the situation. You can always throw in the compliment while you're on your way out of the interaction to allow yourself to take that step. And no, none of this is giving your power away. None of this is pedestalizing. You're literally leaving the interaction. So we're not even in that middle bracket. But again, great practical first steps to get the ball rolling in these conversations. Now, if we were to start to move a little bit more forward and get off of the extremely indirect and starting to make it more about me and the woman or me and that person I'm talking to, instead of asking for directions, instead of asking for this like indirect opinion of things, we're gonna be a little bit more direct, which would be opening with a time constraint. So inside of this time constraint plus compliment section, something like, I actually have to get going, but I just want to say, I really like your jacket, shoes, watch, any type of item that they're wearing, clothing or accessory is a great first step. Or quarter step forward, I thought you had a really interesting look. Or slightly more direct, I thought you looked really nice. Again, it's still not that crazy, but these are all starting to become a little bit more direct. So you start thinking about this in your interaction, about how you can start to baby step your way towards becoming more direct. And this is where we start to go from less indirect, less complimentary, and more intent, more around the idea of I find you attractive, or I think you're cute. And also, we can take away the idea of the time constraint on the front end of the sentence. So instead of saying, I actually have to get going, oftentimes you can just say, hey, excuse me, I was just walking by and I saw you. I'm not even saying I need to leave anymore. I'm actually removing that little crutch that I used for myself. You could just say, hey, excuse me, I just saw you walking by and I thought you looked really cute. Or I thought you looked cute. And I wanted to come say hi, and I wanted to say what's up, and I wanted to come meet you really quick, right? Any one of those is now at a place where we're actually just displaying intent, and there's no time constraint, and we're just unapologetically letting the woman know that, hey, I like your look and I wanted to come meet you, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. I think a lot of men have this crazy idea that if you go up and do that to a woman, you're gonna totally piss them off, or you give all of your power away. Like, I've heard oftentimes men saying that, well, if we're approaching, aren't we giving away all of our power? I do not think that saying in a very calm, cool, confident way that I saw you walking by and I thought you looked cute, I haven't given away any power, right? And I'm gonna show you guys how, as we go further down this chart, how you start to give away more and more power. And I also wanna get to what to do in the middle of an interaction, because there's a lot of places where men go wrong when it comes to after the open, as well as going for the phone number. So now that we're starting to display more intent, you want to get comfortable with taking that next step. And guys, as I'm explaining this progression, if you're somebody who's barely approaching right now, or you're not good with flirting and creating attraction, or if you're not going on dates with the quality of women that you want, click the link down below for an opportunity to work with me directly. I put together a brand new training where I go over my journey, the clients I help, my program details, and how I can help you achieve your dream dating life right now. The link is in the description. Be sure to check that out. So now that we understand absolutely indirect to giving out compliments, using time constraints, softening up the intent, giving a very basic, not a big deal type of intent. The places where men go wrong with this thing, where in my opinion, they're either too direct, or they give up too much of their power, or they end up pedestalizing the girl off of the initial open. The first and most subtle one is their tonality. The way that they open shows that they're extremely nervous. And again, this isn't displaying too much intent, but this is actually giving your power away. Like the fact that you are so nervous and you're shaking, your voice is either really quiet and you feel like you're doing something wrong, or you're intruding, or you're apologetic, or you're just talking low because you don't want other people around to hear you, or you're just not confident enough to talk to this woman, so you talk with a very weird or shy or scared or nervous voice. Any of those subtly sub-communicates that this woman is out of your league. And I know a lot of guys that are even better looking than the women that they go up to, right? There's a lot of dudes online that say, this only works if you're good looking, it's all about looks. I've seen good looking men that are taller and more attractive than me. They can't open confidently. Their voice is shaky. They talk with a low voice. They're not comfortable going up to women. Your tonality and the way that you open communicates indirectly how you feel, like where you're at in relation to the woman. And this will take practice. The first times I ever went up and did cold approach, my voice was extremely shaky. My body was shaky. I couldn't smile. I couldn't just be calm and grounded and present and be able to control myself, right? So a lot of that is just repetition, getting out there, getting the reps in, calming down, getting desensitized to things. But that's the first place I see men go wrong. Is it's a subtle thing, but it's in their tonality and in their voice when they're opening. The second way that men are doing too much off of the open is they over compliment the girl. Meaning it's okay to be intrigued. It's okay to be curious about the woman. It's okay to even admit that physically she is very attractive. But the problem is that you're completely sold at the fact that she's so beautiful. So saying anything like, you're absolutely breathtaking, you're absolutely gorgeous, you're sexy as fuck, you're so attractive, oh my God, like any of those, in my opinion, too far. You're not impressing her anymore by saying those things. The whole point of this chart is to find a sweet spot, right? To convey enough so that we can get to the point without giving our power away. So anything beyond the minimum requirement, in my opinion, is too much, because you can always sprinkle in more and more and more as the interaction goes. But when it comes to the open itself, just to get it off the ground, you don't need that much. It's more about staying calm, explaining to her what's going on, and getting to the point without overdoing it. And those things do not make her feel any more attracted to you off of the open. And the third way that men go too far with it off of the open is they add in these sentences that indicate that the girl is completely out of your league. Something like, I would be regretting this for the rest of the day. I could see myself kicking myself if I didn't at least come up and say hi. Honestly, I'm extremely nervous talking to you, but I was like, I need to go up and say hi to her. There's just no need to say any of those things. Even if you feel those things, you don't need to say those things out loud. Just like if I'm on a date, even if I'm extremely attracted to her, I'm not telling her, hey, I'm so aroused and turned on by you and I can't wait to fuck you. I'm hoping we have sex tonight. Why would you say that? That ruins everything. That's not what you would say in an interaction. Refrain from saying any of those things that indicate that it's a really big deal that you're talking to her, as well as anything along the lines of, I've been following you for a couple of blocks and I finally decided to open, or I saw you like way back there and I was like thinking about talking to you, or if you're in a nighttime environment, like I saw you all night, I've been watching you all night, or I saw you throughout the night and finally I decided to come and talk to you, or even like in a classroom setting, indicating that you've been thinking about talking to her over and over and over again. All of those things are low status that indicate that you're really in your head, you're really nervous about the whole thing, she's out of your league. And even if that's true, just practice taking the right action and start trying to be more confident, because over time you will get more confident. I was the guy that was extremely nervous, but me going up and telling her I'm extremely nervous instantly disqualifies me. I'd rather, even if I'm nervous, I just try to be as confident as possible and present myself in as attractive as a way possible. So all of those things are just too much off of the open, and they give your power away. Okay, so those are all the different ways you could display interest or intent off the open in a positive way. I also want to talk about one way that you can inject a little bit of a negative spike into the open as well to kind of balance it out. And I don't personally do this too much, but it is worth noting that you could also, off of the open, have some level of intent plus some level of a push-pull, which would allow you to display more intent without giving away any of your power technically. And this can work in a variety of different situations. You will need a little bit more context if you're going to do a push-pull off of the open. And the most canned, recycled, reused push-pull is something like, you're cute, but I feel like you're low-key trouble, or you're cute, but honestly, I don't know about you yet. And this isn't something I do very often. However, there have been times where situationally it made sense that I do display intent, but I notice something about her, and then I make an assumption off of it, and then from that I tease her on it. It's something like, honestly, I saw you walking by and was like, oh shit, she looks cute, Latina. I gotta go up and at least say, what's up? But I just found out you're actually Middle Eastern. Damn, I don't know how I feel about that. Middle Eastern girls are attitudey, right? Girls from New York are pretty attitudey, right? Girls that are Latina have a little bit too much spice sometimes, right? So you could add that in. It can work. I just don't find myself consistently doing it, but it is a tool that you could use situationally. And now that we understand completely indirect versus too direct, I also want to talk about the middle and the end of the conversation and where men go wrong with this part too. The first piece that I see that men go wrong with this is they open with a very indirect opener, and then the conversation goes by and the whole conversation is still very indirect, right? And then you walk away with an Instagram and dude, there was just no intent sprinkled in at all, like at all. There was just zero. And so you have a very friendly conversation, and then you get an Instagram, and then you comment on her story and you guys start texting, and now you're trying to figure out how you're going to set up a date when there was no intent at all. And now you're trying to make it happen through text. That is a complete fail. Let's move a little bit more in this direction towards more intent. And that would be the equivalent of somebody who opens with intent, right? Maybe you open and you have a little bit of intent, there was a little bit of directness, but then the rest of the interaction is just completely logical and friendly, and there's just no more intent, right? So first mistake, dudes never do it at all. Second mistake is they open with it, and now you're not used to having enough conversation with women, so you just are panicking and trying to stay afloat in a 2, 3, 5 minute, 10-minute conversation, and you're just hoping not to run out of things to say. And that guy right there, even if you opened with intent, the net sum of the entire interaction is pretty much neutral. Like, just because you opened and you did one and then you had a long interaction with no more, like you're pretty much back at zero. And so you might end up actually getting phone numbers, but they're gonna be so flaky, and they're not even gonna text you back. The only time that that could work is if the girl is extremely attracted to you initially. And that's why a lot of guys think, well, it's all about looks, right? She'll text Chad back. It's like, okay, in that one particular instance, maybe it's just not enough flirting, not enough push-pull, not enough back and forth. The sweet spot, in my opinion, would be to go even more in this direction, which if this is zero, this is you open with intent. A nice balance would be you open with a little bit of intent, and then throughout the interaction, there's multiple injections of intent. So if I open with a little bit of it, maybe in the first 1 minute of the interaction, I find a way to tease her. There's actually no more intent, but there's a playful negative spike. I playfully disagree with her. I playfully pushed her away. I playfully challenged her. I playfully disqualified her, playfully dismissed her even. I do this in a bunch of my interactions. I explain this a lot on my channel, but one of those things can actually add a negative, playful, emotional spike, right? Then in the next 1 to 2 minutes of the conversation, there could be a little bit more intent, or there could be a push-pull, like intent plus whatever the thing was that I already teased her on. And so most men make the mistake of having zero intent or just opening with intent. I think a nice balance, let's just say the interaction was somewhere between 5 to 10 minutes. A nice balance would be opening with intent, having at least 2 playful negative spikes over the course of the interaction, but also 2 to 3 positive bursts of flirtatiousness, right? So once off the open, another one at like 1 to 2 minutes, another one at like the 3, 4, or 5 minute mark is a nice balance to it, where you're not going crazy over the top. You have 1 or 2 playful negative spikes in there too to kind of balance things out. And that's not going to put you into the section where you're like really overdoing it or over pedestalizing. That is a nice balance to the interaction. And now when we're talking about the end of the interaction, the problem that most men do is, back to example 1, is they open with no intent, whole interaction goes by, no intent, and then the guy never even goes for it. And so you end up with a bunch of, nice to meet you, have a great day, you're a really good guy, awesome, take care, right? Because there was just zero intent the whole way through, right? Let's move into the next example, which is the guy that actually displays intent in the beginning, but then there's zero throughout the whole interaction, and then maybe he goes for the phone number. That guy, he might actually get phone numbers because you opened with intent and you had a pleasant conversation with the woman. Now, at the end of the interaction, since she had a decent experience with you, she feels good enough to give you a phone number there. But when a day goes by, when 2 days goes by and her emotions fade, she's not feeling you anymore. So that's not gonna convert majority of the time. Now let's look at the guy that opens with intent and then he sprinkles it in 1 to 2 more times throughout the interaction. That man, since there's been multiple injections of man to woman dynamic going on, it actually makes the most sense and it's the most congruent for this man to actually go for a phone number somewhere at the 3 to 5 to 7 to 10 minute mark. Men make the mistake of they go for the close way too soon. And this would actually be categorized as like giving your power away or going for it too fast, too much, too soon. Because you're also indicating you're very sold from the beginning of the interaction. Like off rip, you were into her and you're like, let's just do it, I'm down to go on a date. It's just too soon. Take your time, chill out, have a couple minutes of interaction. On the low end, have 3 to 4 minutes, which is not a lot of time. For anybody that's saying, we're too busy, I gotta get to it, she's either about it or she's not. No, you have 3 minutes, bro. You went up to her, you have 3 minutes to talk, you got 5 minutes to talk. You could walk with her for a block or 2 if you absolutely needed to. Run at least a 3 to 4 minute interaction on the low end before going for the close. And ideally, it's a little bit more stretched out than that with multiple injection points where you then move towards the idea that we could hang out sometime and do some sort of activity. And the last part of the indirect versus direct would be inviting the woman out, right? So very indirect way to invite the woman out would be you're out with a group of people and she's welcome to join in or even bring her friends, which actually is an effective way to ask a woman out. However, you always want to go with as direct of a route as possible, right? So I would only recommend doing that if it makes sense. Like if you actually have something going on with friends and you wanted her to join in on that thing, or you feel like her interest level in you isn't that high to the point where she'd go on a one-on-one date with you just yet, you could also invite her to a group activity as well. A small, subtle, advanced tip for this one thing is that you could get a girl's phone number on the idea that we're gonna go out as a group, but then when you're texting her, if she's really warm, you could even still invite her to come out with you one-on-one. So that's just like a small, subtle thing worth noting in here. If I were to go one more step direct, that would be something like, I'm gonna be doing blank thing, you should join in. Hey, this weekend I'm going out to blank spot. I'm gonna be doing this workout. I take my dog on this walk. I'm going on this hike trail. If you want to join in, I'm hosting this thing if you want to join in. And I like this too because it's saying, hey, with or without you, I'm gonna be doing this thing and you can join in. So it's a very safe way to invite a woman out because whether or not she comes, cool. Either way, you're gonna do this thing. And if she doesn't, it's not like you got rejected, right? And if you want to go even more direct, I would just say something like, we should go do blank sometime, right? You guys are talking about different activities. She likes to go out, she likes to drink, she likes to party, she likes to work out, she likes to cook, she likes to get coffee, she likes to go on walks. It doesn't matter what the thing is, just simply saying, we should go do blank sometime, right? More direct, still not a big deal, very low key, not giving any power away. And if you run the interaction properly, if you're doing everything I mentioned throughout this video, that's how you can have a nice balance where you show intent, there's multiple injections of it, you didn't give your power away, you ran a solid interaction, she got to know you, and now we have an activity set up and I can get a contact exchange that makes sense. Now I can follow up with her and she will likely come out to hang out with me. That's how it's done. Now, displaying interest without giving your power away is an important part to actually landing dates consistently, but it's not the whole structure. So if you want to see how I helped a client of mine actually land 40 dates over the course of my program, check out this video right here. Or if you're done watching YouTube, if you guys have been watching enough YouTube content, but you're still not getting the success that you want in your own dating life, I'd love to help you make that transformation. Click the link down below for an opportunity to work with me directly. There's also an in-depth training on that page where I talk more about my clients, my coaching program, and how I can help you achieve your dream dating life. Click the link down below and apply to work with me directly. That's all for this video, guys. Peace out.